Agriculture has evolved over centuries, especially here in the Central Valley of California. Over the past 10, 20 years, we've seen family businesses maybe be acquired or moved into private equity style businesses. We've seen families partner with these companies, maybe technology companies come in and work with VCs for quick growth capital into a market. The story's always different. But today, we want to dive in a little bit deeper behind private equity, agriculture, and especially water here in the Central Valley. Today, on the Toast Podcast, we have with us Amanda Nielsen of Axia Water and Matt Angel of Madera Pumps. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Sam.
Thanks for having us.
So, Amanda, ladies first, of course. Axia Water, it's a newer private equity fund, right?
Yeah.
Can you explain a little bit about what you do with Axia Water and what Axia Water's mission really is?
Yeah, of course. So I'm the CEO of Axia Water. We are a private equity-backed strategic acquirer of groundwater service companies. So that's pump companies like Madera Pumps and then drilling businesses as well. So we're very focused investors. We only buy groundwater service companies. And what we do is we inject growth into good businesses and help them become the best that they can be. It's a slightly different type of investment to some other private equity companies. They might buy turnaround companies, or they might, buy a bunch of different diverse businesses in a single area. But we are sort of purist, focused groundwater services investors.
Well, that is a really interesting vertical because you don't see a lot of companies, especially in the private equity space, that either they don't typically try to stay in one vertical, and especially agriculture. A lot of them seem to kind of run from it because it's uncharted water in that area. It's not been around for so long. So, Matt, you've been part of Madera Pumps before the acquisition, and you've stayed with Madera Pumps post-acquisition. You're kind of one of the gurus in the valley when it comes to water. I think most of these people in this 60-mile radius of Madera, Fresno, know who you are. They trust you for those pieces. But for those of the audience that don't know who you are, who is Matt Angel, and what has been your involvement with Madera Pumps?
Well, I came into the groundwater business probably a little late. I started in the irrigation business in the 90s when things took off. Kind of cut my teeth there, moved into some technology, and then actually sold a couple companies and retired into farming, which is hard to believe because nobody retires in farming. And then was asked by the last two owners of Madera Pump to come aboard. And, it was probably a little older. It was probably 50, 54. And it was good, Sam, it was a new experience, but the groundwater game changed in 2012. It was kind of a sleepy industry before that, but what happened was we were faced with the first big drought since 1977, and that really caught everybody off guard, and it put us in a position to really force our hand in becoming a great pump company.
So you said in 2012 was when people really started to take note about their well infrastructure, their water infrastructure, in case we went back into that same scenario again?
Yeah, I think that was a big part of it. I think guys were using more drip. I think, there was this big evolution, even on the west side, to use subsurface tape. So you saw this big push in irrigation, specifically pressurized controlled irrigation. In the old days, we used to use flood, and we went into a pressurized environment. But that was, that was part of the issue. But drip allowed us to move into the foothills, so there was more use of groundwater. And then I think on top of it, we saw a big drought in 2012. I mean, we probably had 4 inches of rain, and that really had a big impact. And that happened all the way through 15. So it changed the industry. And basically, we saw groundwater decline, things like Sigma pop up. And we went from, where the University of California was saying that we needed about 28 to 30 inches of water to grow a crop, to understanding that we probably need closer to, 40 to 48. And that was a big change. Crop and water go hand in hand, yield and water.
Mm-hmm. So with Madera Pumps now, you guys have been around for almost 40 years?
45 years, yeah.
40.
Yeah.
So you've been involved with them for the last 10 then?
12 to 13, yeah.
What have you seen drastically change with Madera Pumps and the way that farmers are thinking about water over the last 12 years?
Well, I think farmers just continue to get more better at their game. I think there's, it's become a business. I think, farming's still, a lifestyle, but it became more of a business where yield, you saw, big growers like Russell, Baker, I can go down the list of, big growers that evolved during that time because of drip. And as a result of that, I just think that you saw the use of groundwater become more imminent, that people were using groundwater to grow higher yields.
Amanda, where did you guys identify, because being in that very strategic spot of you want water, you want well drilling, you want pump companies, where did you guys come up with that niche in the market? What did you guys see early on that decided to move Axia in that specific niche?
So I was also born on a farm out in Australia, sort of in the southeast corner of the country. We had merino wool, like merino sheep and black Angus, sort of mixed crops. When I was a kid, we went through a really tough time and actually had to sell our family farm partially due to drought conditions. So it's, for me, always been something in the back of my mind as just kind of I'd like to get back to my roots at some point. And when I joined Alpine, which is the sort of parent fund of Axia, I joined with the remit of, Amanda, we've just had a large fundraise. We want you to go and find the next great services industry for us to invest in. And that was partially where the idea started. One of our other guys we work with, they have wells on their property, and we started to think, okay, what are the essential services that are going to carry not just domestic homes, not just farms, but commercial industries, dairies, factories through the next 10, 20, 30 years. And water is the most essential element of all of that. Groundwater is a space that has had a surprising lack of outside investment. We were at Groundwater Week 2 years ago, and the irrigation show was at in the next convention hall in Vegas. And you walk through the irrigation show, and it smells like money. Everyone's in these nice vests, and you've got these great sort of financing providers and new technology and all of this stuff happening. You walk next door to Groundwater Week, which, by the way, if groundwater didn't exist, the entire irrigation industry would not exist. And there is such a limited amount of capital invested there. You've got great rigs, but where is the technology? Where is the infrastructure? Where's the investment? And that, for me, was a huge indicator of an opportunity. And the people that we spoke with were so excited. There are a couple people who kind of spears up and like, get out of my...
Defensive, yeah.
Yeah, helmets on. And then that's okay. Change is scary. But the opportunity, I think, through other people's excitement to say like, oh, what can you do for me? Oh, wait, I can improve my business. I can grow. I can add technology. I can change. That for us was the door opening to say we should build a business here.
I think you see a lot of equity put into companies that have like the newest soil moisture probe or, a weather sensing technology. But I haven't seen until you guys an actual, hey, where this all starts, it's in the groundwater. Yep. Now, can we make that company a little bit better? I think a lot of people don't fully understand what private equity's position is to a business. Yep. A lot of people put up red flags immediately, especially in an old industry like agriculture. Like we see outside money coming in and it's scary because everyone feels like it's still family in the coffee shop talk. But what is your standpoint on that? And what is private equity's true position coming into a company therefore?
Well, I mean, private equity is kind of, you have to separate it out. There are a whole bunch of different investors out there, just like there are a bunch of different kind of players in agriculture. And I think it has a pretty terrible reputation. You can blame, the old distressed buyout generation, the kind of barbarians at the gate style folks. We are growth investors, which is a specific class of sort of private equity companies where we believe that the best and kind of most efficient way to grow and make money, because let's be clear, private equity is about generating returns. Like no one's kind of sugarcoating that.
Yeah.
The best way to do that is by finding good companies and putting capital in them and putting that money to work. So what you want to do is buy a rig. You want to generate demand for that rig, and you want to get that rig moving as much as possible, get some good guys, get them trained quickly, get them out on the rig, and grow through investment. You have other private equity providers who'll buy a business that they think is, for want of a better word, kind of fat. And they'll come in, they'll trim the fat, they'll sort of optimize it to the sort of least amount of effort that they can, and then they'll sell it to the next person. That's a different style of private equity. It's a kind of fairly legitimate one and pretty common. So I would say private equity's approach in agriculture, if people are thinking about being acquired, like you need to really vet and test and do references on the firm and understand how do they make money and what's their philosophy of making money.
Hey, this is just a quick break in the podcast, but if you're spending Valentine's Day at World Ag Expo on February 14th at booth U54, the Centered Marketing Group will have their stage for a live edition of the Toast Podcast at the Ag Center booth. Make sure to stop by at U54 on February 14th. We'll see you there. I think we were talking a little bit about this. For a company that has been family owned, right, and we are kind of always playing the tax game, how do these companies get prepared if they want to move into a private equity conversation? If they need that next step for growth, or they're ready to maybe move an exit for themselves and for their family, how do they prepare for that?
Yeah, it's a tricky conversation because as we spoke about, a lot of family businesses, they want to minimize the net income that they're bringing in at the end of the year. They want to minimize their cash flows because they don't want to pay tax on it. And again, that's a fairly legitimate way to run your business. By the way, when companies like us do due diligence, we do not care. The creative ways in which you run your family airplane through the company, that's totally fine. we don't mind what skeletons are in the closet. Just tell us that they're there. But the fact is that we and other investors, even if you're going out to raise some debt, typically that's valued on the bottom line. So it can be your EBITDA, it can be your cash flow, it can be your net income. That's what people are going to look at. So if you're preparing for a sale, you need to think about, all right, I'm going to have to eat a tax bill that I am not going to like for at least a couple of years to show what the true value of my business is, because that valuation is going to come off a multiple. So kind of you take a number and multiply it by that bottom line. So say you're a $2 million EBITDA business and you're valued depending on your service at a 5 times multiple. It means to whatever the investor is, your business is going to be worth $10 million. So that would be my advice.
Gotcha. So making sure that the books are in line 2 or 3 years in advance.
That's right.
And the family does have a full plan post that. And then they can also set themselves up for tax planning with the sale, with the equity and everything like that.
Well, it's not just tax planning. So you also got to think about some of the lifestyle things that folks run through their business. Maybe it's the family gardener that just kind of gets paid through the business, and there's a little bit of equipment that's used on the farm. Like I'm sure
there's a gas bill. Yep.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
we all got the fuel cards.
About. And suddenly, when you sell to an investor, like that stuff goes away. We don't. Luckily, like our businesses, they haven't been burned because we've sort of forewarned them about this and made sure, like, hey guys, we need you to know very clearly that you can't do X, Y, and Z post acquisition. So I don't know if Matt's still running a gas bill through. He still works for the company, so it's probably fine. But.
Well, I run a gas bill when I'm on your dime.
Matt, what has it been like for you now? You've actually been through some acquisitions before, correct?
Yes.
So This is your second or your third?
This is my second.
Second time.
Yeah.
What's it been like for you looking at long-term growth for Madera pumps?
Well, I think there's an evolution, of businesses, right? And I think that we were at that point that we needed to evolve. The scalability and the synergy between companies, let's just say up and down California, is huge. Your ability to become more efficient, your ability to serve customers in a 7-day week, time span. I think that's important. I think typically, people will work in a single company 6 days a week or 5 days a week, and then there's 2 days that water still runs, and it's typically to cattle operation, which is critical to get to, right? So if you had a sister company, 50, 60 miles away, when something like that happened, there could be a crew that 1 week would take on that 2 day, and then the next week there would be. So there's this ability to service your end user in a way that we couldn't do that as a single entity. I just see that, our investment, our way of thinking, all those things had to evolve. I mean, and our ability to scale, I think, we talk about spending that money and trying to avoid tax. Well, that doesn't help you scale. We can make $1 million, but we don't have $1 billion. You know what I mean? And in order to get to that spot, that has to happen. So it's good for everybody. At the end of the day, we saw that it's good for the owners of the company. It's good for our people, the people that work for us, and it's good for our customers. I mean, as we get better, all those things are going to be more efficient and enable us to help growers be sustainable, truly sustainable, and make more money.
With like you just said, the 7-day kind of being able to service pumps year round or clock around, I guess, in irrigation season. Is that something that you guys are already doing, or is that something you guys want to move to? I know we talked with Westside Equipment, who was just acquired by Oxbow, and they've been in the private equity space, and a big thing for them during tomato harvesting season is 24/7 service. Is that something you guys are going to be able to offer this next season?
We're looking at it, as we grow, that's certainly something we want to, but it has to be right. What you don't want to do is advertise that or tell somebody you're going to do it, and then it doesn't happen. What we're waiting to do is position ourselves in a way that we're solid, we can deliver and execute, and when we're able to do that, it'll be the greatest thing in the world because I think it'll help everybody.
So you guys also have Stonehouse Drilling, correct?
Yeah.
Axia Water. Is that the only other acquisition right now that's public?
Yes, so we have a couple other businesses that are under LOI right now, sort of in the process, which will be all revealed soon. But currently it's Stonehouse and Madera.
So Stonehouse then and Madera Pumps can now work hand in hand, correct? A
Yeah.
lot simpler because everything's kind of a little bit under one roof, not necessarily on the day-to-day business operations. But is that giving you guys some more access to help grow and be able to bring in another company?
Absolutely, Sam. I think when you start looking at what we got to do with, we knew in the back of our mind we had to have a drill company. And especially if you're a rehab company or a restoration company, because you want to go in and you want to look at a well, but you want to be honest to the end user and say, look, to rehab this, it's going to cost X. We could drill a new well that'll produce more water at a better specific capacity. It'll be more efficient. And give them that ability. Stonehouse has got an amazing reputation. We brought in. We've been accessing new customers. Some of the best growers that I know are using Stonehouse. I mean, they are a group of guys that they do all the right things. They'll do a test hole. They do an e-log so that we know what we're doing when we go in before we drill. Those are really important things. We have the faith in Stonehouse just like we do ourselves. So I think that'll just multiply in our ability to do all the things that we need to do for our growers.
And that relationship's going to become more and more important because you and I were actually just in the field last week, and like we looked at the well, right?
Yeah.
Close your eyes, you see nothing.
That's right.
And we see nothing inside that hole. We have no clue what's going on other than working with companies like Madera or maybe Stonehouse, right? Being able to get some cameras down there, be able to see where our water levels are truly at, how we're testing. As the growers getting ready for season now, and wells will start turning on here in just a few weeks, and your guys' busy season will start to kick off. What can a grower do right now to prepare for those things?
I think you got to be pump testing. You need to be looking at your well. You need to run it. You need to look at your electrical panel. It's wet. We need to come out, make sure there's not a bunch of dust and condensation in that panel or in the motor. There's so many things. That well is the most important asset on a ranch if you're growing permanent crops. Because if you don't have a well, you're a wheat grower, right? Mm-hmm. You're dry land. So that's the variance. So if you're in permanent crops, it is absolutely critical and the most important thing. I had a grower the other day tell me, he says, he goes, we're a little concerned. We spend more money with you guys than we do the John Deere dealership. I said, well, if it wasn't for us, you wouldn't need the John Deere dealership. Mm-hmm. And he laughed and he goes, well, I guess you're right. So right now, people need to get looking and evaluating what they've got. And we're open for business. We're ready to go to work.
And then in February, once your guys' season really kicks off, right? February, March.
It is. That's when bloom happens, Sam. We're just there. We're getting ready to farm.
Hey, if you want to see some jugs, go over to theagcenter.com. Click on shop and look at all of our line of fertilizer products from Penny Newman, from the Ag Center, and many more. Irrigation parts, PPE, whatever you need to keep farming this year is at theagcenter.com. Add it to your shopping cart, check out fully online, see it at your ranch soon. We'll help you keep farming this year. theagcenter.com. So how many rigs do you guys have ready for this season, and what is your, what can you help a grower with during season?
We've got 6 rigs ready to go. What we can help, we just talked about the integration, between our ability to look at a well, decide if it needs to be rehabbed, and doing an honest evaluation, not just go in and do a rehab and charge somebody to, brush a well and try to clean it, right? Mm-hmm. Doing a rehab or restoration causes a well to increase in productivity, right? There's a lot of companies out there that aren't doing that. But when we evaluate that well, we look where it is, how it was drilled, who it was drilled by, and then what is its current productivity. If it doesn't do the things that it needs to do to provide the amount of water for that crop, because in an irrigation system, it's specific. You need 1,000 gallons a minute in this irrigation system at 45 PSI, right? Mm-hmm. Well, if you're pumping 500 and you think you're going to farm through, you just can't do it. The things that are important are like distribution uniformity. All those things that make you productive as a farmer are more productive with a highly productive well. So how we're preparing is that we're looking at, when we go into a well, what's that grower need? And then give him an honest evaluation between, do you need to drill a well? Do you need to rehab it? Or what can you do, to get through this season?
If I may, this is what Matt just said is why we partnered with Madera Pumps. This is why Madera was our first company that we acquired. We looked at a ton. It's because they are so obsessed with quality and providing the right answer for customers. Like Matt and Trish as well spend so many hours consulting, spending hours of their time with growers that, may not even buy something because they want to give people the right answer because they care about the integrity of the product and of leaving a legacy that they're really proud of. It's remarkable. The Stonehouse team are the same. People who are just obsessed with quality and integrity and honesty. And it's
well, you know how it is, Sam. In agriculture, it only, everybody talks about 7% separation, right? Agriculture, it's 1%. We all know who
Everyone knows their
everybody is.
neighbor.
You betcha. And we know, and we were brought up with that, that framework, is to work hard, do the right thing, be honest, and provide good value, to our end users. So it's real simple for us. But I think the integration between Stonehouse, Madera Pump, and then, the background with irrigation and understanding, yield, DU, all those things that are important that drive profitability. That's how we're going to keep and gain our reputation.
Yeah, well, it seems like you spend a lot of time with growers just past. Is there well running with the right amount of pressure and X, Y, and Z? You and I were talking just the other day about looking at energy bills, right?
Yes.
Can we make it more efficient to run? And so I know you're doing some projects to try to help some guys out to see if we can run during off hours and save money there. What have you guys really done there? And I'm sure for a lot of corporate investment, it makes a lot of sense on the ESG as well. When we're looking at the environmental impact and different things like that, how have you been able to kind of lead those projects with Madera Pump?
Well, I think energy, power, ESG, greenhouse gas emission, all those things are critical. I think we're going to look at those things long term and say, we've got to do that. But we know for sure that PG&E is going to increase by 10%. It's going to be our biggest cost. And if we're not running efficiently at our highest gain, I think the ROI quickly can be done on what's going on. We've been doing a lot of NDVI on fields. You got companies like Ceres that are talking about, DU instantaneously. Everybody knows how that looks, right, Sam? So I think for us, it just makes really good sense to look at that power or energy requirement and then tell growers with certainty what the return on investment if they do certain practices. That's what a guy sits down with you. He doesn't want to hear, I think it might. He wants to know, look, where's my ROI? How fast can I get there? And what can you do to help me be more profitable? And that's our game.
One of the things that we're doing in a very practical sense is we're fully revamping our pump efficiency testing program, across both our companies, to make sure that we can provide growers and any customer with a clear understanding not only of the sort of pump efficiency, but also the energy usage and the cost of running that in a really clear way. And we're starting to track that over time so we can see for customers, show them how their pumps and their costs are trending. Because what is it, $1 per acre foot? Like it's something that is such a clear value proposition for growers to be able to assess their investment and the return on that.
What are you seeing out there, Sam? I mean, when you start talking about water, what are you seeing in the water world?
Out of the water world, man, I don't play much around in that anymore. I trust you and call you, or I call Keith or one of those guys at Central.
Yeah.
I stay away from it. Because I did not ever have that background in water, and I never really have.
Yeah.
And so know your space, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So
yeah,
that's my spot. When the guys ask me a question on that, I know that water and infrastructure has never been my strong point. But I mean, obviously, you constantly hear it of wide areas. You've seen a lot of land come up for sale right now with a lot of wide area, and people are curious on how you're going to farm those, and the price on those haven't came down at all with the wide area today. I mean, it seems like that ground is still really expensive, and so I see it more on like acquisition, trying to buy ground and things like that and grow something else. And so I don't look so much on the water side. That's why I leave it to the experts. Don't talk out of your skis or whatever, whatever the terminology is. Know your space. So by no means do I try to find myself as a water expert. That's why I constantly call you guys.
Yeah. Well, you know what's funny, Sam, is that farmers, when you talk about wide area and Sigma, farmers are extremely resilient. When the ethanol thing came in, the ethanol business said, we're gonna grow corn and we're gonna make ethanol, and the amount that we need, it's gonna take the American farmer 3 years to be able to rise to that occasion. It was within 1 year that we were oversupplied, right? Yep. American farmers have the ability, the resilience, the intelligence, the resources to do anything, right? And we'll figure this out, you know what I mean? And we'll do it in a way that it continues to be profitable and good for the environment. I think that's what a lot of people are concerned about is, how does that work? Again, having access to really smart people is the key to success, in driving that charge. And I think we're perfectly positioned for that.
Yeah. Well, with the acquisition game as well, and talking about private equity, you see a lot of times, you said having the right people in the right position. With Axia, you've seen it a lot with some private equity funds. You look at like Payne Schwartz, who maybe brings in more of a management team when they move into an acquisition. Is that not a piece that Axia really focuses on? They try to leave the existing management team in place and build off of there, put the right people in, maybe bring in some external forces. What is your guys' kind of play when you come into a company?
So, I mean, this industry is so based on experience, relationships, legacy, and knowledge. You cannot just parachute in some MBA, not to insult MBAs, but you can't just like parachute one in and be like, go run a pump company. And a pump company that serves growers and services their most important asset on their ranch, which is their well. No one can learn that in 6 months or a year or even 3 years. Mm-hmm. And so what we do is we partner with management teams and we sort of help them stay on whilst bringing in new folk to sit underneath them and be their apprentices and learn from them to eventually take over the company. We've done that at both at Madera and at Stonehouse to bring in new folk either from outside the industry or from analogous industries to learn and start to develop customer relationships, but do it the right way. So again, that we don't just come in and put this sort of carbon copy playbook, because it does not work in this industry. Mm-hmm. People have tried and people have failed, and we've heard these stories of failure, and we're just not interested in doing it again.
Well, so Alpine already has quite a few different companies in their portfolio as well.
Yeah.
So were you working with Alpine in those portfolio companies before Axia then?
No, Axia is my own one and only
It's your one and only.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So before Axia, a little bit on getting into your background for
Yeah.
companies. Then, is that your first equity play, or did you have a lot? You said so. You're from Australia. Some of the crowd might not know.
Yeah.
Were you doing the private equity space in the Australian market at all?
No, so I was working in sort of infrastructure consulting mostly in Australia. So I worked with a large management consulting company called Boston Consulting Group. And I worked for 4 years there mostly with mining companies, infrastructure, real estate. And then I spent some time in the Middle East, so working in Saudi and Dubai on, again, infrastructure and development consulting. So working with national, state governments, private companies to help them kind of run their operations. I'm a big fan of like big, heavy, tangible things. It's sort of my bread and butter.
Is that so? Then, what did you got an MBA then from Stanford?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
which is kind of ironic because the MBA at Stanford is one of the most like high tech, crypto focused programs.
Well, Matt is actually a crypto enthusiast.
I heard.
I've got a crypto deal going up in Nebraska. Don't tell anybody.
Oh, wow. We've got another one for you.
Bitcoin mine.
Yeah. I'm mining. Lots of power, lots of water up there.
So yeah, look, it's a bit funny. I graduated from this very high tech institution and said I want to go into water wells, but I like these. I'm very passionate about things that are, I'm from the country, so I want to work with people from rural and regional communities. I really care about kind of the economic development of these communities, and the people who were born in places like this can stay, because I had to leave, my family had to leave, and I think it's really important to be able to afford people the opportunity to do that. Secondly, half my family are blue collar workers, and so I really care about being able to create a stable income for your family while working with your hands. I think it's a really great way to do it. And like I said, I just like, big real things that I can look at and touch and kind of see spin around and think, yeah, we made that. We built that.
So then what was your bachelor's then in? I'm guessing you went to school in Australia then?
Yeah.
So what did you do your undergrad in then? Undergrad,
actually, I did a law degree.
Gonna be a lawyer.
Yeah. I'm called a reformed lawyer. So I got the technical knowledge. My first job was actually working up in remote Aboriginal communities up in the north of Australia. So basically doing law for anything that wasn't crime, housing, wills and estates, consumer law, anything you can imagine. And then sort of wound my way to where I am now.
Moved the whole family here from Australia then?
No, it was just me.
Just you, okay.
Well, it's the one reason, Sam, that I think, Amanda was, we had other people that were looking hard at us. And just because, the match worked really well, her ability to look at people. I mean, I think it was really, really important to us to see the people that we work with day in, day out, that legacy and that, all those things would be continued in the same way that we had handled it. So we selected them as much as they selected us, and we couldn't be happier.
So it's really gone to be a good partnership. And how long ago did you guys get the drilling company?
Stonehouse we closed 2nd of August.
Okay,
last
so
year.
Fairly new too, because I believe this acquisition happened in March
16th. Yeah.
March 16th.
Yeah.
So now you're almost going to go on your full first year.
Yeah.
Yep, 2 months away.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's been quite a journey. What's kind of next for Madera Pump and Axia Water? Is there some new things that you guys are working on behind the scenes? Some new different pumps that you guys are looking at? Is there some different play acquisitions that maybe make sense without saying any names? What's kind of next for in the books?
Absolutely, Sam, but we'd have to kill you if we had to tell you. You know what I mean? So, no, I just think that, the one thing that we're going to continue to do is engineer smart solutions, whatever that looks like. I mean, whether it's in power, we're going to match systems that perform well to have high uniformity, high efficiency, profit-making systems. So I think that's what we're looking at. I think, just continue to get better. We've got now the horsepower, that Axia brings, and it's serious horsepower. I mean, a beautiful thing about, what we do in water is all objective. So math fits right in that objectivity, right? And we got some great mathematicians. We got people that know how to add and subtract and, multiply. Thank you, Amanda. Absolutely. That's going to be really important is just, I think, doing that high-level analytics. Things go on in the field that we don't know about, and it's the things that we don't know that will make us more money. And those are the things that we'll bring to the party and continue to help our growers be profitable and sustainable and resilient.
I would say there's two things that we know that growers have their choice of pump company. There's one or two every 50 miles up and down the valley. Mm-hmm. What we're focused on at Madera is making sure that we can provide that quality consulting service to our customers. In addition to a customer says, I have a problem. We say, it probably feels like this, because we're a fully integrated company now. We can service you from the engineering and design of the well all the way through to rehabs and redrilling. Is providing that one-stop shop for kind of, I have a water problem and we want to be able to solve that as a whole package for our customers, which we know is a different, kind of differentiated proposition. Secondly, we're doing some really cool things with data. And again, we have to kill you, but if we tell you, but what we're exploring with some of our customers is how we can monitor and then use and analyze their data to make sure that their wells stay as efficient as possible for as long as possible. So we're starting to think about wells not just in terms of, all right, I've invested this much and then I'm just going to run it until it breaks, but how do we predict when it's going to break down, or how do we predict when that efficiency is going down without being so reactive and starting to be proactive about managing all of those assets?
Well, I think you've seen it in agriculture, data become king of everything we do. We're looking at data behind every single fertilizer we put on, every pesticide. Is it actually doing what it's supposed to? Is it ROIing pretty quickly? Everything. So now you guys are really trying to take a data-driven approach as well when it comes to pump testing, when it comes to the operation of the pump, to make sure we get that full 45 years, right? That's what we really want a pump to last for, is about 45 years.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So
that's absolutely right.
When we see that, and I think a lot of guys, especially in almonds, right, we see it's a 25-year crop. Some guys might think we got to come in and do a lot of repairs, but we want to make sure that it stays steady. So if you go for a replant, it's still surviving for you.
Well, I tell you, Sam, and what's really important about that, there probably wouldn't be a farmer out there that says that, when I get my pump bill, it's a bill that, I have to swallow hard with. But one thing for sure, you can trust what we spec, right? And that, beyond all other things, is the most important thing. But I think not only is it trust, but what we're working at on that data is that ROI. Because that's what people really want. They want hardcore facts that say, this can be delivered guaranteed.
So you guys are able to now sit down with clients and look at that kind of futuristic number and figure out the ROI pretty quickly?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you guys coming in today, having a toast with us, looking at irrigation in California, looking at private equity, moving into this space. I think it's interesting that you guys have chosen this exact vertical that you want to follow at Axia. And so thank you for coming in and having that conversation, and a toast to future growth. Madera Pumps, Axia Water, everyone. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
I'm alive, and I see things mighty plain and saying